If you're tiny curious or considering going tiny, I'm going to give you the version you don't get on Pinterest or HGTV. Tiny living looks charming in photos, but there are logistics, weather economics, and a few surprises nobody talks about, including how a driveway once decided it had a vendetta against my truck, and when a tree tried to take out my rig on Boxing Day. So, before I tell you what I learned, let's back up to why tiny living even shows up as an option for real adults in the first place. Why did tiny even become an option for me? This goes back probably, I don't know, maybe I guess maybe 4 years ago now. I started looking at these videos on YouTube, Tiny House Big Nation or whatever that show was. I started watching that, and I liked the organizing part of it quite a bit. And in tiny houses, you have to be extremely organized because every inch of space actually counts. It matters where you put things, and that's something that I actually really love doing. It was kind of exciting. Also, the thought of owning my own home. Actually, this was a huge factor for me because I didn't have the money to go down in a house. I didn't have any way of getting that. I had moved most of my life. 53, I probably moved at least 50 times in my life. And I wanted to have roots. I've always wanted to have roots, and I've never had them. So I was starting to think of, well, how can I actually get that? And what does that look like for me? For me, my roots were, I don't know, kind of a gray area as far as what it actually looked like. I was thinking, does that mean, do I have to have all my possessions with me? Do I need to stay in the same place? Do I need to have the same surroundings? Do I need to have just familiar stuff around me? But one thing I also wanted to get away from is having the carpet basically pulled out from underneath me. If the landlord sold the house and I had to move, it's happened. It's probably happened to many people. If the landlord raised the rent and it's all of a sudden I'm priced out of where I can live, that's a very common thing. So I didn't want that to be a thing. If I wanted to do something to my home, decor or fix it up to my style, I didn't want to have to ask permission if I could paint a certain color or if I could put a hole in the wall. I didn't want those rules attached to the roof over my head, so to speak. So a lot of those things kept kind of building together. And as I was watching more and more of these shows, I started thinking, well, this is kind of aligning with all of these things that I want. And roots don't necessarily mean they have to be seated in the ground. They can be on wheels. And that's kind of where things kind of started for me. I started talking about it with my family and telling them, I want to start looking at going tiny. I don't know how that looks, what it looks like, where it's going to be, but this is the lifestyle that I want to start working towards. I want to start planning for it. The funny thing about that with my family is they kind of looked at me like, you're going to go tiny? I love working on furniture. So I would bring big pieces of furniture home and revision them into something new. That's not something that's readily doable in a tiny home. You'd have to have land or a workshop or something like that. And I'm a maker. So I have a lot of maker supplies, whether it's sewing, woodworking, or if it's working with clay, whatever it is, I have a lot of different variety of things that I like to work on. So doing something like that in a tiny home, average tiny home is, I believe it's under 400 square feet or under 500 square feet, somewhere in that range. That's what you're considered tiny. And to have all of my belongings in that space was something that was kind of comical, which makes perfect sense. I had a lot of stuff. So over the last couple of years, I slowly started downsizing what I had. I would go through my possessions and start purging them, stop bringing in the bigger pieces of furniture. And it was even at the point where I really wanted to go tiny. I actually had just finished building a table by accident. And my prior place to that, I had built an island in my kitchen that was 6 feet by 6 feet, and I'm in a 500 square foot home. So I do these random things, and this is part of the reason why my family was looking at me like, really? You, tiny? So this table that I had just built by accident, I wanted a tabletop for the legs that I had, but the legs didn't work. So didn't work out. So I started doing the top and ended up building legs to go with it. Those are the kind of things that I would just do on a whim. Go out to go for groceries and I come home with a vehicle full of lumber. It was just a normal thing. That's not something that you can do. That kind of mindset is not something that you can do in a tiny house. So I had to really shift my mindset on being intentional as to where I wanted to go, how I wanted to get there, and what that would actually look like. So it was quite a journey. That started a few years ago. I did lots of research on zoning. I was living on the mainland in BC at that time, the lower mainland, and I was looking at zoning where you could do these things and starting to see that there was this big movement coming of tiny home communities and whatnot. It was starting on the mainland, but there wasn't a huge location to actually bring your tinies at that time. But what I was really impressed with was actually how the structure, in looking on the show, I think it's called Tiny House Nation. My apologies if that's wrong. But the structure of the tinies are basically the same build that would go into an actual home, just on a much smaller scale, much more creative scale. So I started looking into that kind of stuff and thinking, okay, well, it'd be kind of cool to get involved in that. I'm not a builder. I don't run construction crews. I've never done any of that kind of stuff. But I thought it would be kind of cool to learn how to do that and just to be involved in it in whatever capacity. I didn't really know what that looked like at the time. But I started doing more research, ADHD, doing hyper-focused drives, downward spirals into that world. Learning a lot of stuff as I went, and it got even more and more intriguing as time went on. So the seed was planted, and it kept growing, and I just kept feeding it, and it started blossoming into something. So then I made a move up to a smaller community with someone at the time, and it was into a much smaller space. And actually, technically, the space was bigger, but what I had allotted to me to use was a lot smaller. So I had to downsize a lot because I was integrating my things into someone else's space as well. So I had to downgrade a lot of the stuff that I had. I had to purge a lot of furniture, and I tended to have big pieces of furniture. My bedroom suite alone was massive. It was a 3-piece queen size bed set, and it was massive. So even that alone, I had to do a lot of purging. So that was an experience, and I'm a very sentimental person. So a lot of the stuff, like my memories were tied to visual things. I'm a very visual person as well. So I would look around and my memories would be surrounding me, and like photos of my family. I used to have a gallery wall, and that made me happy. Well, in this space I was going to, I couldn't have that. So it was a lot of, really deep soul searching as to whether I could do this. Even to this house that I was moving into, it was a lot of things that I had to not necessarily give up, but change my views on things, and I didn't have to have everything right in front of me. Try to reduce the clutter, that kind of stuff. So it was a big process, and then so after I did that, I learned a lot about myself already, as far as how easy it actually was to go smaller. I mean, I was already living in a 1-bedroom basement suite, so I didn't have a ton in a way, but I had to get rid of even more. I had to lose a lot of my furniture. So it was definitely a transition, but what I was surprised at is how, like I said, it was how easy it was for me relatively, and I didn't expect it to be. It was emotional, but it kind of wasn't that difficult. So it wasn't all that hard as far as that part goes. But then while I was up at this new space, after I was there for about a year, I got the news from my son that he and his little family were moving to the island, to Victoria, with my granddaughters. I broke down in the biggest ball of tears, because I didn't want my granddaughters to grow up without me near them. My kids grew up with my mom close to them. They saw them quite often. I didn't have much growing up as far as grandparents. My grandmother, my mom's mom, was around when I was growing up. But other than that, I didn't have much as a grandparent sense around me. My dad's parents were in a different province and we hardly saw them. So the only person I had as far as a grandparent figure was my grandmother. And as wonderful as it was, I wanted it to be a stronger presence for my granddaughters, the way it was for my kids. So I was at an immediate loss, that thinking that I'm going to hardly ever see them. I'm going to miss them growing up, and I'm not going to have that connection with them that I was building. So immediately I said, I have to move to the island. I don't know how, I don't know where or when or what that looks like. I just knew I had to move. They hadn't moved yet. They moved in the middle of winter. But I figured by that summer, I was going to move over. Again, I didn't know where. I didn't know how. All I did know was I was also tired of living as far as a tenant, paying the rent that was ridiculous these days. Hey, Tazzy. The rent in the basement suites, it's all I could afford at the time, were astronomical, and it wasn't getting any better. Especially moving to the island, I had to be in certain areas work-wise because to transfer offices, there was only 2 particular locations I could go to. So I started looking at the cost of living over there. It was pretty much the same as where I was here, or where I was in the mainland. And I thought, well, if I'm going to make this big move, why would I put myself in the same financial position? I'm not getting myself any further ahead. So there was a lot to think about. And all I knew was I needed to be within an hour of my granddaughters and within an hour or less, hopefully, from one of these offices. So then I started even looking more into the tiny options. I didn't have the money for the houses. You can do prefab ones that I saw, but they were $10,000, and I didn't have that money. It was a timeline that I didn't have to save up for it. Finance was definitely a contributing factor, but I knew I wanted to live a bigger life for myself, a freer life, not so financially restricted. So I started looking at RVs, and started thinking, well, maybe I can get myself into an RV. That's still tiny living. It's definitely an option, and why can't I do it? That has become a fairly new thing that people were doing nowadays. So I started really looking into that. So fast forward a couple of months, I had decided I was going to do the RV thing. I didn't quite know how yet. So I started looking at costs and whatnot. And I figured, I found a couple of options that were, a few $1,000s that I can fix up. And I thought, okay, well, I can work with tools. I'm not afraid of those, so I can do that. I'll just buy a fixer-upper, no big deal. So then I bought a truck that I would eventually tow my RV in. But in order to do that, I had to learn how I was going to tow it, what that looked like, what was needed to do that. Again, doing the deep dive into the research, what kind of tow hitch, what kind of RV am I going to get first? Once I figured that out, it was going to be a fifth wheel. Then I had to figure out what kind of, what that looked like to tow it. Then I needed to get a certain type of a hitch, and my truck that I bought didn't have anything in that. So I had to look at what type of hitch did I need for the type of RV that I was going to get. What did I need to secure that hitch into my truck? So I did that. Before I even had the vehicles or the rig secured, I had bought a tow hitch for a fifth wheel. In order to install the hitch, I had to get rails installed into the bed of my truck. And then that was secured. That was in. That was a challenge to find someone to do that. But thankfully, one of our neighbors was able to do that for me. So I did that. And then I was gifted an RV. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't live-in ready, not even remotely close. It had been basically a storage facility for myself, for most of my belongings for about a year. It was 24 feet, and it needed a heck of a lot of work. But I took it on because it was going to give me the financial freedom that I really wanted. So I got it emptied out. I started doing some demo because it had some old leaks in it before. It was 1989, so it was quite old. And it was a unique build. It was built off of a U-Haul long haul trailer, something along those lines. So it was a kit. It wasn't like I could take a serial number, put it into Google or YouTube and search it to find out how to rebuild it. It wasn't like that. I couldn't go to a manufacturer and say, okay, I've got this rig. What do I need? They give me the parts. No, it wasn't like that. It was a kit that I actually had to figure out on my own how to take things apart. I watched a whole bunch of videos on demoing an RV and whatnot. And demoing mine was not like the videos I had seen on YouTube. People on the YouTube, they would, smack a few times with a hammer and they would just pop out. This was 30 plus years of seated hardware, painted over numerous times onto the hardware, over top of the hardware. Like everything, the cabinetry was painted several times over. It was not coming out very easily. So I started doing it. It was a massive challenge as it was, but then I got a hiccup. I had gotten the word from my doctor that I had a date for surgery. I was gonna have a hysterectomy. Within that time frame, I had just recently been to the island to visit my son and his family. I had secured a spot of where I was going to park this rig. Now that I knew the size, I secured a spot. It fit my destination of work and where the girls were. So I had been to the island and I had made that trip and did the paperwork, did all that stuff. So I had a date of when I was going to arrive at my new space, and then I had my surgery date. I had done a little bit of demo prior to the surgery, not a heck of a lot. I had I had about 6 weeks before the surgery that I basically, in a perfect world, I would have had it demoed and had it roughed in and basically ready to go. But that was not the case because things didn't work the way that they were supposed to. The demo didn't go the way it was supposed to. It was not smooth at all. Any kind of hiccup there could have been, there was. There was a generator inside the RV that I couldn't get out. It was rusted in place. Things like that happened every stage of the way. So it was not an easy task. Much like almost anything in my life, nothing like that ever came easy. So I was like, par for the course. Sure, it's this way it's going to go. So I have the deadline of when I need to get as much demo done as possible, because after the surgery, I was basically complete halt for about 6 weeks. I had to stop doing everything. I couldn't lift a dinner plate. I had to stop everything after my surgery. So that was right in the middle of my demo time before I had to go. So fast forward a little bit, I had the surgery, and literally the beginning of summer, I had perfect weather for everything I needed to do, but I had to stop. So what I ended up doing is trying to be as proactive as I can. I started planning as much as I could, ordering parts and things that I know that I would need along the way, doing more research about how to do certain things challenges that I've already gotten to. Ordered my bed, we had a garage sale, and I bought my fridge with those finances. So I started planning things. I planned out the type of cabinetry I was going to have and all these kinds of things. Figured out that I needed to change over the brakes because my truck had electric and the RV had hydraulic because it was the type of build that it was. So I had to marry the two somehow. So I had to research all that kind of stuff. A lot of different things that I was doing the research on behind the scenes as much as I possibly could. But it still wasn't enough time. There was not even remotely enough time. So fast forward again till I'm able to move again. I started doing as much more demo as I could. And then I got to a point where I had to stop working on it. And I had to start getting all my things packed up and ready to go and do the absolute necessity things. The RV had no electrical. It had no plumbing. It didn't have brakes. It didn't have brakes. I had to work on all of that. I had a massive, massive time waster, but also a massive hiccup in that I actually couldn't change the brakes because they didn't make that bolt pattern anymore that my current RV had. In order to change that, I would have to change the whole axle over, which was a couple of $1,000 minimum. And I didn't have that option at the time. So, that was just one of the hurdles. Again, no electric, no plumbing, not livable. And I had 2 cats coming with me. So I had to put everything at a complete halt and pack up whatever I had left. And I had to start getting ready to actually go because I had a date of when I actually had to take possession of the space. So that was hairy as it is. So I ended up parking my RV because where I was currently living, it was quite an incline, about a 15-minute incline. We were at about a 2,000-foot elevation at the time. And because of the brake situation, I didn't know how it was going to be fully loaded. So after I tested to see that I could actually pull it when I first hooked it up, that was pretty fun. I'm going to try and see if we can pull my rig out of her space that she's been in for the last 2-3 years. I haven't hooked my fifth wheel up yet, so it's the first time. Don't know what's going to happen just yet. She's on the road! Okay, so she is in her new place. I'm so freaking excited. Oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. I've never done this before. I know, yeah, I'm just ridiculously excited. I can't believe I actually did this. I'm just sitting down, just soaking it in, and I'm very emotional because I did it. And I did it by myself. Anybody can do this if you really want to. Don't discount yourself. Don't think that you can't. I didn't know if I could do this, and I freaking did it, and I'm super stoked. I'd never pulled anything that big before, so it was actually really kind of cool. I knew how to drive trailers. I knew the logistics behind that, but pulling something that big is a very different experience, so that was pretty fun. But loading it was another challenge. I basically had to take truckloads of my belongings down to where the RV was, load it up, come back up and do all these loads. And I had to do it all by myself because I didn't have anyone else around that could really help me with that. So that was very time consuming, very challenging, but I did it. I had to. Something that I've learned and adapted to most of my life is I just have to. There's no other options. I don't have someone else to bail me out and whatever. So I had to figure this out. And I tend to thrive under that kind of a situation, under pressure. So neurodivergent people will totally understand that. So anyways, I get it fully loaded, got the ferry booked and all that kind of stuff. A lot of emotional hurdles along the way, because having a hysterectomy, not only are you dealing with pretty major surgery, you're also dealing with sudden onset menopause. So fun. The emotional aspect of it, the moods, the overwhelm was beyond what I had ever experienced before. Plus, all of that happening with the emotional factor of moving somewhere I had never been before. I'd only visited my son and their family once or twice before. I didn't know the island at all. And I always told myself, I'm never going to live somewhere by myself that I've never been before. And here I was doing just that. I am moving to the island on Saturday, bright and early in the morning. Ferry's already booked. All that kind of stuff is ready to go. What's not ready to go is me. This is a different kind of move than I've ever done before, and I've moved a lot. Just had a bit of an emotional moment a few minutes ago. I've moved a lot in my life, but the blessing on this side of things is I get to take my home with me if things don't work out, or if I choose to relocate or whatnot, rather than having to pack everything again and again and again. And that's what I'm going through right now, is having to pack my belongings again. And it's tiring, it's exhausting, it's emotional. Going through all these items that, especially this time, going through all these items that are sentimental. I'm a very sentimental person. It's been a challenge. So it's a good thing though. It's very cathartic. It's very very healthy, and there's been a lot of good memories that I've been going through my possessions and whatnot, whittling everything down, because I'm sitting in the steps of my RV right now, and not much fits in 24 feet. So I'm learning to live with less things so I can have a bigger life. And it's a challenge because of being so emotional. I see items from when my kids were little, or, I see something that sparks a memory and whatnot. But I'm training myself to realize the memories stay with me, regardless of the things. So I'm working more on that. I'm also going through this in the midst of sudden onset menopause after my surgery. So that's fun. Stuff like that. Everybody knows that moving isn't easy. But this one's just different for me. My fifth wheel there's so many amazing things about it, and there's been some challenging things about it. It's a good thing, as in when I move over, my home will be with me, and I can take it wherever I want to. I don't have to wait on other circumstances to determine where I'm going to go, or how long I'm going to stay, and then pack up again. All I would have to do is basically just close up everything, disconnect, and then go wherever I choose to. So I can take my home on wheels with me. I have been longing for roots to seed myself into all my life. But there's different forms of that, and this is going to give me what I need. It's going to give me the security that what I have is mine. No one can take it away from me. And it's all up to me. I make the decisions. This is my life revisioned. Your initial plans of how you think your life is going to turn out may not be that way in the end. And that's kind of what's happening here. And it's not a bad thing. It's just a challenge, and it's a pivot. I am looking forward to this journey, this next phase of my life, living my life on wheels. Living in a small space, my square footage is just under 200 square feet for now, but it's going to be in a beautiful oasis on a piece of property. This sanctuary is what it feels like when I was there. So I am on the ferry now, enjoying this beautiful, beautiful, absolutely stunning day. It's obviously a little breezy because we're inside, but I am super, super excited about what this weekend will bring. Hopefully I'll get some answers as to where I'm going to be able to park my girl in a couple of months. And I get to have a great visit with my son, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter. So excited about that. So I am at the property that I'm looking at for my home, and fell in love. Then it's just amazing. They've got bunnies and chickens and turkeys, and looks like it's probably going to work out that this is going to be my new home. Where are you going, Murphy? Hello, buddy. Where are you going? Yeah, hi, girl. Hi. So I am back on the ferry, heading back home. I think I found my new home. Another day and still working on some stuff here. I ran into quite the hurdle, I guess you could say, yesterday when it came to getting my drum off so that I can actually get into to access the brakes. What I should be able to do is this ring here is what needs to come out in order to pull the axle drum out, and then this whole hub will come off theoretically once this is off. That's the theory. I am exactly 2 weeks today that I'm supposed to be on the ferry to the island. So pressure is definitely on. This is what I need to get off, and I got one. They're all off. So this needed to come out. Ah, there we go. Okay, so thanks to a good neighbor, I believe your name was Doug. Thank you for that, Doug, for coming to help me out. I was getting pretty defeated yesterday. I've got 14 days till I'm supposed to be on the island, 13 sleeps. So the mystery continues. The lessons keep building that I can keep learning from. It's moving day. Good morning. So I am on the road. Cats are right in here. They're not happy, but they're safe in their carriers. I am extremely behind in my time, but I'm hoping I can still make the ferry in time. Everything is good, I guess, aside from the time factor. It was quite hairy getting everything loaded in time. Basically doing it all on my own. Nonetheless, it's done, and better late than never, I guess. But we are on our way to our new home, new adventures, new phase of life, to our life revision, and I am super excited. Hey, so it's been a minute since I've done a video. A lot has happened, a lot. So I am on the island now, living here. I've been here 8-9 days now. It's quite an event getting here. Let her go. Not even a third way up the hill, my truck wouldn't go any further. So my truck wouldn't make it up. It got stuck, literally in the middle of the driveway. So first person that was called came in, took a look at it, realized it was quite a predicament. He was thinking he could just get it here with his truck, go around me and pull me up. Not the case. They couldn't get around me. So he called a buddy to come and help. So two of them were here. They couldn't figure out how to detach my truck from my rig in order to have my vehicle towed up here. Because of the incline like this that my rig was on, they couldn't detach my truck because there was no way to stop the rig from going backwards, going down the hill. One of them had suggested unloading some things to help with the weight. My girlfriend and I did that. We started unloading some things. A third guy showed up and said, that's not going to help anything. Yes, it's heavy, but unloading a few things, even if you offloaded everything, it doesn't solve the predicament of the angle that things were on. So several hours went by, different things they tried to do and whatnot. One of the fellows got in my truck and tried one more thing after they'd done a few other things, tried to give it a little bit more gas, and transmission popped and blew in my truck. It was a rescue mission, as they called it. These guys do this for a living, but they were not here to work anymore. They were to rescue me because nobody could get in, nobody could get out. So when the last guy got here with his tow truck, it took him a few more hours still. They figured out a way to get the truck backed up a little bit, or the rig backed up a little bit so they could balance it out in one of these little pull-out areas and then get my truck detached. Meanwhile, I'm losing my crap because my transmission had blown on my truck. I had no vehicle. I had just moved to the island that morning. Was supposed to start work 2 days from that point. So whatever they figured it out, how they figured it out, these men are geniuses and angels as far as I'm concerned. They got my rig separated from my truck. One of the tow truck ended up having to push my truck all the way up the hill, and where it's now parked, sitting right there, useless. Yeah. So they got it up here, and then the other fellow that had his regular truck with his higher capacity hitch than I have, he's got one level higher than mine. He ended up towing my rig up here like a hot knife through butter. It was amazing. That was my welcoming to this area. It's been a lot. My son, daughter-in-law, and surprised me with my granddaughter being with them, came the next day. As soon as I saw my granddaughter in the truck, I just burst into tears again. They are my heart and soul. They're the reason I moved here. Getting a little emotional again, just thinking about it, but they're the reason I moved here. And seeing one of them in the truck was the medicine that I needed. My granddaughter spent the night with me. We stayed in my tent with my two cats. So we spent the night, and my granddaughter had the best experience. There's bunnies on the property here, and bunnies are her favorite thing in the world. So she spent a lot of time playing with the bunnies and snuggling the bunnies, which was amazing to watch. And then everybody went home. Yeah, I'm going inside now, and the girls, my cats, want to get out, but they've been really, really good. I'm blessed with how amazingly good these cats have been. Because I haven't finished my demolition in order to do my renovation. But now we're living in it. Because I have no choice. I'm tired of living in the tent, which I did for 4 nights. Me and the cats and the litter box. Fun. Yeah, there's Tazzy. Hey, baby. So I took yesterday for a me day. I needed it. It's been a lot. And I've had a couple of moments when we were sitting in the tent, when I was basically still living in that and working from the tent too. While I was working, sitting in the tent, looking out the tent at my rig, I was thinking, what did I get myself into? Am I in over my head? And if I don't continue this path, what are my options? One day at a time, one step at a time. But I've had a lot of angels on my side. I don't believe in luck. I believe in the vibes, the energy that you put out is what you get back. But I've had a lot of angels on my side helping me this far, supporting me, physically helping me, emotionally helping me, whatever way they can. I've had a lot of support, and the angels that helped me get my rig up here, I'm just amazed that I made it to the driveway. That's where it decided to stop. That basically my truck was saying, okay, I've gotten you this far, you're good. Got me this far, I got to my driveway, and the universe said, okay, you're done, you're here, the rest will work itself out. And it has so far. We'll get there. This is just part of my journey, and I'll find a way. Single woman, 51 years old, doing this for the first time. Well, life is the messy bits. And right now I've got a lot of messy bits that I got to tend to. That was a real event. I thought I had the hardest things behind me. I was so naive in thinking that. And yeah, I had no idea what was ahead of me. I was still thinking, oh yeah, I can do this, no problem. I'm not done yet. It's moving time, but I can do this, no problem. The future me, I wish would have told me then is, no, don't do this. You cannot safely renovate an RV that was at this condition while living in it. And I was thinking, okay, I'll just shuffle. It'll just be a lot longer of a process, but I'll just do one section at a time, and I'll move this over here, and I'll do this section, and I'll move it back, and I'll do this section. That doesn't work that way, especially when I have my 2 cats with me. The concept of renovating 24 feet while living in it with 2 cats that had no plumbing, no electrical, no perfectly sealed roof. There was lots of little holes all over the place. And I was thinking, yeah, I can do that. I don't know what I was thinking or how I was possibly going to do this. But I had in my head, it was determined, and stubborn me, I don't know what it was, but I had in my head, no, I can do this. Well, basically, I got the wake-up call of a century. Welcome home. And I kept saying, my girlfriend and I kept saying, I'm safe. Me and my girls are safe. So that's my welcoming to the island, is what I got. I had thought this entire time that gonna get a truck, gonna get an RV, gonna fix it up, gonna move to the island, and I'm gonna finish fixing it up. It'll be good. It was none of those things. I got the truck, I got the RV, but everything in between was not even remotely the way that it was supposed to work out. Everything I've seen on TV, on the videos and whatnot, how people plan ahead to get the right truck and all that kind of stuff. I did all of that. I did plan ahead. I did get the proper equipment. It just, the logistics didn't work. The driveway and everything else, it was just too much. It was just, things don't kind of work that way for me, the way that you see on TV. I don't know if it's for everybody else, but for me, things don't work that romanticize the perfect world kind of thing. There's a reason why this is Life is the Messy Bits, and man, are mine ever messy. I had so many angels working with me and looking over me that whole time, getting me here safe. Whoever was looking over above and guiding me, I was so appreciative of all that. It's not the glamorous way that some people see. And so I had all of my belongings in my RV. I had to live in it too. And I had to come up with a way to, still in my mind, I was thinking, okay, I have no choice to live in it and fix it up at the same time. Because I had no choice. I had nowhere else to go. I made some decisions to change that up. Reality hit me when every time I kept saying, no, I can do this. No, I can do this. I kept getting smacked upside the head saying, no, you can't. No, you shouldn't. And not that I couldn't technically do it. this is not safe. And I kept getting these wake-up calls like, knock it off. This is not the right way to do this. You don't have to do this. I kept getting told, oh, you're so brave. You're so brave. I can't believe you're doing all of this. You're so strong. I had no choice. So I finally started to listen to what the universe was trying to tell me, that this was not the way that it was supposed to go. I got here. That was the goal. That was where I needed to stop that thought process and start looking at the other options. So that's what I basically started doing.
So I have made a bit of a big decision. I have decided to get rid of her. There is lists upon lists upon lists of what needs to be done. Staying in there for the last 2.5 weeks has been a real challenge. I'm done with her. So it's going to stay here temporarily. And my brand new to me fifth wheel is being brought over. I bought a new one, new to me. So yeah, I made a decision to do something for myself that I deserve. And it's mine. It's all already paid for. I've already got the keys. I'm super excited. Only one more sleep in this thing. And I can't wait to settle in. I've never watched the weather so incessantly. It's not a way to live life. I moved over here to live a simpler life, a bigger life. And it's not been that so far. I deserve a better life than that. And that's what I made this big change for in the beginning anyway. She's all loaded up, ready to come home. So I am in my new home and the cats are going a little nuts. Tazzie's exploring right here. Sasha's hiding. It feels like it's an actual house. It's amazing. And here's Ellie over here. Hi. Hanging out for the night with her Frank. And then Ellie's been helping me get some stuff sorted out as well. Haven't you, Ellie? Mm-hmm. Yes, you have. Maybe I'll have some time with these guys to help me work on it, right? Yep. This place is big enough that we could basically have a little dance party. I was joking with my kids. So who knows? Maybe we'll do that, right, Ellie? Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows? So Ellie came over today for the first time since I moved over here. She's seeing the bunnies that are here. And we got to go and see, what was it that we got to see? The chickens and the roosters? Mm-hmm. We got to see them and you got to pick a couple eggs, right? Yeah. Yeah, so we got to do that. So that was super fun. She got to play in the area and learn about the area as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool. What do you think about this place, Ellie?
I love it.
What do you like about it?
It's so big and it has places for me to explore.
Yeah? What else do you like? Do you like the bunnies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's another cat on the property too. You like the kitty cat?
I like Moonlight.
Yeah, the kitty cat's name is Moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having your first sleep over here with me, right?
Yep.
Nice. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Oh, my journey will change to updating this one.
Bye.
So one of the things that I would say out of this whole process that's really stuck with me is I already knew I was strong and resilient and I could adapt. But to the degrees that I had to do that in this instance is like beyond next level. I'm used to being here and adapting to things on the fly. I had to be here. And I did it. It was hard. It's been hard. The storm.
I had quite the event here Boxing Day morning, about 1:45 in the morning. We had quite a windstorm and a tree was taken down in the wind. From the wind, this tree here was taken down and it fell between my two rigs. This is my newer one. This is my older one. It literally fell right between these two. So by about 4 inches or so, it fell to this side. Had it been a few inches over here, I don't even want to know what could have happened, what might have happened. It was pretty insane. The loud thud was one thing, but being shaken awake by this bang, that the tree coming down. And right here, my car was parked. It was buried underneath the trees, or the tree and the branches. But my car, when I looked out the window, it looked like it was sitting quite low. And here she is. Could have been a heck of a lot worse. Could have lost my car. It's a miracle. My neighbors are calling it a Christmas miracle. But oh, what an event. Oh my gosh. Absolutely terrifying to have come that close. I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed. And the universe has a big plan for me. I don't know what it is yet, but it's got a big plan, and you just never know. But that's my bedroom window right there. And the rig was, the tree was right in front of my bedroom window. I'm so incredibly grateful. Life has a way of giving you wake-up calls, and this was definitely one of them. So this is between both of my rigs. I don't know if hang on. Really hard to see what this is, where it's on. I think it's pretty much on top of my car. And on a bit of my roof. But I can't open my door all the way to find out. That's what I can see here so far. The tree looks like it just missed me. I don't know if you can see. This is my bedroom window. There's obviously branches on top of my roof, but it's right between us. And somewhere underneath there is my car. Oh man. So they moved my car out of the way. I don't know how drivable it is just yet, but they rolled it out of the way at least. And they've got most of the branches off my rig. Let's see how it goes. That almost took me out. That was a huge wake-up call. Did I almost think of going back to sticks and bricks housing? Absolutely. Many different times. Did I give in? No. Why? Because this is something I really want. So I still have my space. It's mine. Nobody can take it from me. I can put it wherever I want, wherever I'm allowed, as far as zoning and all that kind of stuff. That's the thing I've been learning as well on the island here is it's different rules from the mainland to the island. On the mainland, there's a lot of different tiny house or RV parks that you can park there long term. Here on the island, there's actually a bylaw that you can't park it anywhere, like in an RV park, for more than 6 months. Then you have to move it. And even though my home is with me and I can move it around, I didn't want to have a different address every 6 months. So I didn't want to move and relocate and pack up every 6 months. And I wanted to have a little bit more solid ground underneath me for a little longer than that.
So in order to do that, I have to go further out from the 2 points that I want to stay closer to, like my son and my work. In those areas within my circle of radius of my maximum distance, there's not a lot of options. If you go further down the island, there's a lot more options. But even those options are the same cost as renting a basement suite in an actual house. So to me, what's the point? I'm nowhere further along if I were to go and do that. What I have now on this property it's still my home. Nobody can take it from me. I can do whatever I want to it on the inside, and I continue to do that. I continue to change my furniture as much as possible. I haven't done any updating cosmetic stuff or anything like that yet, but I will be. But I don't have to ask permission first. I don't have to ask if I can paint it. I don't have to ask if I can change anything on the outside. I don't have to ask what I'm allowed to do. I don't have to worry about footprints above me. I don't have to worry about my home being sold and I have to move into another one. If the landowner sells the property, I take my home and I just go somewhere else, but I still have my home. I love actually living in a small space. My current rig is about 270 square feet. It's not my forever home. I will be flipping it. At some point in time, I'll be fixing it up and selling it. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but I still love it. There's been challenge after challenge, but I still love it. The adaptation to a small space like this actually was not as hard as I thought it would be. It felt very comfortable right away. And it's having the less belongings is not that big of a deal. I have a shed outside now. I have storage options. So I still have certain things. I still have a lot of my maker stuff. I've gotten rid of some, but I've still got a lot of my maker stuff. So I've been here about 1.5 years now, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about winterizing. Definitely lots of storms. The one that almost took me out, and there's a lot of mini storms that happen in this area. And I'm not breaking. All the things that have been thrown at me, and I'm still here, and I'm still happy to be here. Would I recommend tiny house living? Absolutely. Do I recommend going about it in a different way? Hell yes. Oh my gosh. It's not a matter of just doing research, because I did a ton of that. I mean, I did a shit ton of research before I did the actual transition. Even 3 years prior, I started doing research. And yes, it's helped me along the way, but there's no way it can prepare you for what I endured. Things I probably should have done. Should have got a better truck. I didn't have the finances for it, but a better truck probably would have helped. Getting into the RV that I have now versus getting the other one first and trying to fix all of that up would have been a better choice. And I had thought about that before I even moved over. The options were there to finance an RV, but I didn't want to get into that financial predicament that I was already in. Getting into a financed RV was putting me almost at the same financial cap that I was at in a basement suite. So financially, I'm not really a lot further ahead, but I am in other ways that it's my space. I can do what I want with it. I'm building my roots. It's just on wheels. And I can take them with me wherever I go, wherever I want to. I don't have a truck anymore, but I do have an RV guy that will move it wherever I want it to go. So until I do get a truck of my own that can pull this, if I ever do that again, I have someone that can do that for me. So I've learned to build and rely on my resources. That's something that I've never been able to do before. Living here has taught me that sometimes you need to rely on people, and I've never been able to do that most of my life. I've only been able to rely on myself. So the people that are living here, they become friends, and I've learned to rely on them, and I've learned to accept help. It's really hard, but I've really learned to accept help when I'm actually out of my scope. And it's really hard to admit that sometimes, but I'm getting there, and I love it. I love my space. It's hard sometimes to just to love it. You know, there's always something going on. I got a clog in my kitchen sink that's been there for a while, and I have to learn how to do that, but I'll get to it. There's the roof I need to do next year, but I'll get to it. Eventually I need to get new tires, but I'll get to it. I do want to fix cosmetic things, you know, take all the old crappy wallpaper that's in other spots. I want to get that off and make it look more updated. But I'll get to it. And those are things that I can do that I don't have to do. There's plumbing. There is electrical. I don't have to worry about things right now. It's livable. I have to fix up the bathroom, and the toilet has some issues. But there's always something. But this is, a lot of these things are typical homeowner things. And I own my home. So, yeah, there's been some challenges, but no regrets. I've learned a ton about who I am and who I'm not. I've changed along the way, obviously. I've grown. I've become a very strong person, even more than I thought I was. Yeah. I love my space. I love tiny living. I can see why some people fall in love with it, and I don't know if I'll ever go back to a sticks and bricks house. It may just be a different version of this. I would like to actually be in a tiny house versus just tiny living in an RV, because a tiny house is just that. It's an actual house, just a smaller scale. So I think maybe that's a goal that I'll have. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm very happy about still after all of these challenges that I've had. So tiny living wasn't simple or cute or minimal for me. It was gritty, it was logistical, surprising, and sometimes ridiculous, but it brought me closer to the life I actually wanted. So if you're tiny curious or tiny serious, ask these questions. How will you heat it? Where will you put it? Can you tow it? What happens in a storm? And who can you call when the driveway decides to take out your truck? If you have answers to those, tiny living might just work. And if you've got questions about tiny living, ask them. I've got data and some scars. Thank you for hanging out with me today. And if you got something out of this, you know what to do. I'll see you next time. Ciao for now.